By the time Jennifer Aniston steps onto any set in 2025, she's already rewritten the rules of Hollywood's success more times than most actors get callbacks. That's a bold claim until you consider 4 firing notices, a $200 paycheck from a fast food commercial masquerading as a sci-fi flop, and nearly $5,000 in debt after one of her first big television dreams vanished in 7 unaired episodes. Even when the pilot that would become Friends landed on her desk, critics hated Rachel Green, and NBC lined up backups. Yet she stood her ground, ad-libbed her way back into hearts worldwide, and turned catastrophe into a global phenomenon that still earns her tens of millions each year. And this is her life today. Prepare to uncover every triumph and setback unfiltered. Her story begins long before Central Perk's orange couch became an icon, back to 1969 in Sherman Oaks, California. Born to a soap star father and a model mother who could be just as sharp with compliments as she was glamorous. Imagine a little girl taught first to question her own beauty, living with parents from 2 clashing worlds. Her Greek dad instilling discipline, her mother worshipping fame and perfection. Late nights on set for Days of Our Lives collided with days of harsh criticism at home, reinforcing a message that her face was never enough. That tension became the crucible forging her resilience, fueling each audition and every rejection, until she learned that success in Hollywood doesn't just come from talent, but surviving the battle to completely believe in yourself. Fast forward to the mid-1980s, when that little girl's dreams collided with Hollywood reality. Jennifer landed a bit part in Mac and Me, a blatant E.T. knockoff, and McDonald's ad disguised as movie magic. She earned a total of $200, barely enough to cover the gas to the San Fernando Valley lot, where she sat as an extra in a McDonald's backdrop. It bombed, 13 million spent, 6 million returned, and dreams of stardom seemed as distant as the stars she hoped to join. Yet every time she heard, "Okay, everybody, reset," she tightened her resolve, understanding even the role carried opportunity. Rejections outnumbered callbacks, from Zucker to Coppola, each no shaping her, each maybe fueling persistence. Soon she'd learn that every failure paved the way to one unforgettable audition. By the early 1990s, every actor learned that one gig can tank your trajectory. Jennifer suffered 3 more series. Malaloy winked out after 7 episodes, leaving her $5,000 in debt and back on restaurant duty. A Ferris Bueller spin-off cast her as an angry teen sister, a role so one-dimensional she walked off set rather than reinforce a stereotype. She returned for Herman's Head as Susie, only to endure off-camera sexism that decades later she'd say fueled her resolve to speak up. Each cancellation felt like a betrayal, but also a masterclass in perseverance. Networks passed on her, audiences dismissed her, and industry insiders snickered. Yet she refused to bend. That refusal would become her superpower when the next audition bundled scripts for 6 strangers gathering in an intimate coffee house. When that script landed on her desk in 1993, no one predicted a phenomenon. That gamble changed everything. NBC envisioned her as Monica Geller, but Jennifer insisted on Rachel Green, a character so untested that executives had contingency plans. She bet her career on a sitcom, even turning down SNL to avoid that boys' club. Her gamble paid off when a test screening went from hostility to uproar, thanks to an ad-libbed stumble that humanized Rachel on the pilot remake at Central Perk. Season after season, She transformed from the nerdy bride to a cultural icon, negotiating salary battles that culminated in million-dollar pay raises, giving up millions so her castmates could earn equally. But beneath the laughs, she battled bulimia, revealing that fame can sting as much as rejection ever did. Friends ended in 2004, but for Jennifer, liberation began after the final laugh track faded. Instead of retreating, she co-founded Echo Films in 2008, proving she'd learned from every script she'd once rejected. When Apple TV Plus poured hundreds of millions into the morning show, she earned millions per episode and creative control, influencing scripts and careers, rewriting lines, demanding diverse casts, and debates over race and power. Critics called it a move, but insiders say she simply refused to settle for token roles. Off-camera, she navigated executive battles, insomnia triggered by menopause, and a stalker's trespass. Yet she built a $320 million empire, launched a line, and gave millions to rescue animals. Now at 56, she stands not as an actress, but the true architect of her legacy. But her life off camera has unfolded like a roller coaster of passion, heartbreak, reinvention, and fierce independence. In 1998, at the height of Friends mania, she met Brad Pitt on a glossy magazine photo shoot, a moment destined to become tabloid legend. His proposal arrived under a glittering October sky, a $500,000 ring, promising fairy tale romance. Their Malibu wedding 2 years later transformed into celebrity folklore, a $1 million ceremony, layers of caviar, and 13 minutes of fireworks, images seared into public imagination. Yet even as fans swooned over their perfect couple status, Jennifer confronted private fears of motherhood and career balance, enduring relentless press speculation and navigating prenuptial negotiations that underscored her hard, one savvy about fame's fickle currency. But paradise proved fragile. In early 2005, whispers crystallized into headlines Pitt had fallen for someone else, and Angelina Jolie's name appeared in every report like an unwelcome shadow. Jennifer stared down a global feeding frenzy, dubbed the world's most public breakup, a divorce battle that played out in courtrooms and gossip blogs. One moment she was Hollywood royalty, the next she was a cautionary tale taped to the front pages. Yet she carried forward with grace, channeling heartbreak into purposeful action, deepening her friendships with castmates, and proving that no amount of humiliation could tarnish her resilience. In rebuilding herself, she laid the groundwork for a second act that defied expectations. In 2011, Jennifer found collaboration and love with Justin Theroux, her co-star turned fiancé. They invested in privacy by acquiring a sprawling Los Angeles estate to escape tabloid lenses, yet still faced questions about her career, motherhood balance, and everyday life choices. Their quiet romance contrasted sharply with her previous public marriage. They wed in 2015 in a whispered backyard ceremony, but after 3 years they quietly split, calling it an evolution rather than a failure. That decision underscored her willingness to prioritize growth over appearances, proving that moving on can be as courageous as holding on. Beyond the cameras, Jennifer's empathy found expression through philanthropy and candid advocacy. After publicly sharing her dyslexia diagnosis, she funneled support to reading disability programs, lobbying for early intervention and inclusive education. She founded a rescue fund for animals inspired by her own dogs, Clyde and Charlie, channeling millions into shelters and feeding clinics. Hurricane relief, disaster funds, cancer research. Her giving became strategic, personal, and often anonymous, letting impact speak louder than headlines. Each charitable act mirrored her journey, battling unseen obstacles, embracing imperfections, and lifting others while climbing. In these efforts, Jennifer demonstrated that real influence extends beyond box office numbers and red carpet appearances. In 2025, the Jennifer's filmography reads like a roadmap of calculated risks and boundary-pushing choices. Her next screen test as Denise White in an epic sports drama commanded a $100 million budget and a director's loyalty until creative clashes led to a 6-month delay. Undeterred, she invested $25 million of her own money, betting her vision would vindicate her instincts. Simultaneously, whispers swirl of her Broadway debut, a late career pivot celebrated by critics and peers alike. She turned down a scripted Friends reunion that painted Rachel as a caricature, insisting any return honor the character's growth. Meanwhile, her Hail Mary series for a streaming giant demands her executive voice. Cast picks, wardrobe, and script revisions pass through her hands, an unofficial showrunner without the title. Security measures have transformed her daily routines. Gates, bodyguards, and panic buttons remind her that fame remains a double-edged sword. A stalker's car plowed through her estate gate in spring, triggering fear that once gripped childhood memories of near, drowning, and bleak family conflicts. She responded with hypnotherapy sessions, breathing exercises, blue light therapy, and an unwavering circle of trusted allies. Menopause-related insomnia left her hours awake, mind racing through scripts and speeches, until she crafted a nightly ritual of guided meditation and weighted blankets. It's a painstaking balance, protecting vulnerability while maintaining the authenticity fans adore. But this disciplined routine fuels her creativity, resilience, and compassion, extending the fortitude born decades ago in her parents' living room. Throughout her decades in the spotlight, Jennifer mastered the art of contrast, lighthearted humor on screen versus a steely determination behind the scenes, blockbuster comedies versus intimate dramas, global adoration versus deeply personal battles. She learned that each role, each choice, demands ownership, not just of the character, but of the narrative that the world sees. That mindset guided her star-studded career and evolving business ventures, elevating her from beloved sitcom star to powerhouse producer, philanthropist, and cultural touchstone. Fans don't merely watch her, they invest in her story, rooting for her. But behind every headline with her name lies an unyielding commitment to evolution. When the morning show debuted in 2019, it wasn't just a platform for her acting chops. It became a manifesto for women demanding agency at the highest levels. From the first table read, Jennifer challenged scripts that reduced her character to cliché, pushing authors to deepen every dialogue, every subplot, so that Alex Levy emerged not as a caricature, but as a fully realized leader grappling with power, ethics, and humanity. Executives who once dismissed producers' notes now found themselves adapting Jennifer's vision. She refused to settle, insisting on story arcs that mirrored real-world iniquity, systemic bias, and the resilience required to confront them. Those demands came at a price. Budgets ballooned, production meetings stretched into late nights, and debates over casting echoed through glass boardrooms. Yet as ratings soared, and critics named her performance groundbreaking, the industry took notice. This was not a star simply showing up. This was a creative force shaping narratives from the inside out. On screen or off, Jennifer's collaborations became lessons in leadership. Under her Echo Films banner, she championed female directors for projects like Dumplin' and Toxic Twins, creating opportunities that transcended star power and prioritized underrepresented voices. Her development slate included a coming-of-age series written by first-time showrunners, a documentary investigating global literacy initiatives, and a dark comedy about sisters navigating mental health. Each endeavor carried her signature insistence on authenticity. No high-heeled glamour shoots, no token representation, just unfiltered stories told by those who lived them. At industry panels, Jennifer spoke with measured conviction, illuminating the importance of microaggressions in writers' rooms, pay gap persistence behind camera, and actionable steps for real progress. Her words weren't PR soundbites, they were informed by the years she'd spent negotiating salary parity with her friends' castmates, battling sexual harassment practices on sitcom sets, and championing equal pay for writers and crews. With every keynote, she eroded complacency, forcing executives to recalibrate long-held assumptions about what audiences wanted and what storytellers could deliver. As her reputation as a cultural architect solidified, Jennifer turned her attention to personal well-being, revealing struggles with menopause, anxiety, and the relentless pace of fame. She partnered with wellness experts to design a line of women-focused supplements under her own brand, Livy, named after her character in an aborted pilot. From adaptogenic blends to journal-guided cognitive exercises, every product aimed to empower women navigating hormonal shifts with dignity and science-backed support. Campaigns starring real women, executives, mothers, entrepreneurs, replaced glossy models, reinforcing her belief that relatability outlives perfection. Through Instagram Lives and Facebook community groups, she fostered open dialogues about insomnia, dry eye syndrome, and the emotional toll of caregiving. Fans responded with gratitude, sharing stories of improved sleep and reduced anxiety. For Jennifer, these exchanges validated a new form of stardoms, one anchored in service, vulnerability, and equitable representation. Meanwhile, her philanthropic footprint deepened. The Clydio Fund, seeded with an initial $5 million to honor her beloved dogs, evolved into a multi-tiered initiative supporting animal rescue, reading disability programs, and women's shelters. Through partnerships with the Red Cross, Dyslexia International, and Shelter My, the fund allocated grants for mobile libraries in underprivileged communities, veterinary emergency clinics in disaster zones, and entrepreneurship training for domestic violence survivors. Her annual gala, held in Montecito's Olive Groves, became a convergence point for creatives, activists, and corporate sponsors aligned with her mission. Far from a socialite showcase, the event spotlighted grassroots leaders and scalable solutions, proving that Hollywood influence can mobilize structural change. And whereas once paparazzi cameras tracked her charity arrivals, now she directed lens flare toward field workers and unsung heroes, blurring the line between celebrity and partner in impact. Parallel to these endeavors, Jennifer embraced new artistic challenges. A surprising turn toward writing materialized in 2024 when she released Clydio Takes a Bite Out of Life, a children's book inspired by her Cleveland rescue pit bull. Its playful text and watercolor illustrations explored themes of adoption, empathy, and resilience, echoing her own journey from feeling unwanted as a child to finding belonging each time she survived a career low. Sales soared, with hundreds of thousands of copies sold worldwide and profits funneled back into literacy and animal welfare causes. Emboldened by that success, she penned essays for major magazines on creativity under pressure, the intersection of motherhood and career, and navigating industry transitions. These pieces resonated because they weren't hollow celebrity reflections, but candid dissections of system failures she'd endured and solutions she championed. Now in mid-2025, Jennifer prepares to step into Broadway's unforgiving spotlight, a stark departure from the safety net of multiple takes, redos, and green screen fixes. Rumors suggest she's eyeing a contemporary adaptation of A Streetcar Named Desire, with her portraying Blanche DuBois through the lens of modern trauma and resilience. If true, it marks the culmination of a decades-long arc from extra in a McDonald's commercial to potential Tony-nominated stage actress. But as always, the path isn't linear. Behind closed doors, she's rehearsing tirelessly for each scene, exploring voice coaching to avoid vocal strain, and shadowing seasoned stage directors to master live pacing. This pivot embodies her perpetual defiance of what an actress her age can do, fitting neatly into the contrast that defines her career, chasing slim pilot roles at 19 and now commanding a six-figure per performance paycheck on a Broadway marquee, even as her journey edges toward Broadway's bright marquees. Jennifer Aniston stays rooted in the lessons she first learned under harsh fluorescent lights and in cramped rental apartments. She remembers the sting of rejection when she was 20, willing to live on instant noodles in exchange for a shot at proving herself on camera. That same willingness now fuels her drive as she steps into live theater, a medium where mistakes can't be erased with another take, and every emotion must land in real time. In that way, the New York stage mirrors her earliest auditions, raw, unforgiving, and brimming with the potential to transform a life. The contrast couldn't be greater between a $20 extra pay in a fast food commercial flop and a six-figure ticket price for a single Broadway performance. Yet the stakes feel just as high, because each role demands the same leap of faith she first mustered as a dreamer in Sherman Oaks. Away from the footlights, Jennifer's days follow a rigorous ritual that balances creativity with self-care. Dawn often finds her unrolling a yoga mat beside floor to ceiling windows overlooking California hills, inhaling clarity before diving into script revisions for projects produced by Echo Films. By mid-morning, she's reviewing costume sketches for her upcoming sports drama, debating whether armored shoulders convey strength or introduce unwanted militaristic undertones. Lunch is a nourishing bowl of kale, walnuts, and grilled salmon, eaten while she listens to audio recordings of her own monologues, critiquing each inflection and pause. Afternoons belong to philanthropic strategy sessions, drafting grant proposals for the Clydio Fund's latest literacy initiative, and discussing mobile library designs for children in wildfire zones. Evenings find her on Zoom calls with stage directors, rehearsing scenes that hinge on subtle shifts in eye contact and posture. Still, she carves out time for quiet reflection. Some nights, she sinks into a chaise lounge with a pen, jotting down page after page of essay ideas on artistry under ageism, the power of allyship, and the art of reinvention. Planning articles she'll pitch to major publications. Despite her relentless schedule, financial independence runs as a current beneath every venture. Jennifer has learned to treat her earnings as seeds to be sown carefully, not squandered on transient luxuries. She owns real estate from Montecito vineyards to Manhattan brownstones, each property purchased with an eye to long-term creative retreats for writers and directors. Her Livy Wellness line isn't a vanity brand. She funded clinical trials to validate each supplement's efficacy, collaborating with neuroscientists to refine adaptogen blends that support hormonal health. When she poured $25 million into her sports drama, after creative clashes stalled production, she didn't see it as a gamble but as a strategic reinvestment in her own vision. That tenacity flows into her media empire. Echo Films now shepherds half a dozen projects in development, ranging from a climate change docuseries to a dramedy about sibling rivalry in the music industry. She's cemented first-look deals that guarantee new voices get green lights, upending the old hierarchy and paying forward the breaks she once fought for. Her ability to navigate public adoration and private vulnerability keeps her story compelling. Social media feeds overflow with snapshots. A candid video of her cuddling shelter puppies, a behind-the-scenes clip of her nailing a 10-minute Broadway scene in one take, or a selfie with an author she's mentoring through a dyslexia workshop. Yet not every moment is perfection. In recent interviews, she's spoken openly about nights when insomnia leaves her staring at the ceiling until dawn, her mind replaying childhood echoes of criticism. She's described the sting of paparazzi flashes as she navigates streets meant to feel like home, and the strain of enforcing security protocols that remind her fame can be isolating. Still, she shares these struggles unflinchingly, reframing them as common human experiences. That authenticity deepens fan loyalty, forging the sense that her triumphs are also ours and that her setbacks mirror the doubts we all face. A defining feature of Jennifer's narrative is her relentless use of contrast framing, turning each victory into context for the next challenge. In a recent keynote, she described going from a "you don't belong here" stage whisper at her first drama club audition to mic'd press conferences at the morning show premiere. She explained how her scars from early rejection fueled her insistence on parody negotiations with friends, castmates, and how surviving personal heartbreak taught her to pursue film and writing projects that resonated with authentic emotion. She wove those contrasts into an overarching message. Success isn't a destination, but a continuous balancing act between fear and courage, scarcity and abundance, imitation and innovation. That ethos now defines every undertaking, from spearheading diversity panels to developing comedies that spotlight middle-aged women as protagonists, not punchlines. As the next chapter unfolds, Jennifer balances several launches on her calendar. The children's book sequel to Claudio, Takes a Bite Out of Life, is due in autumn, promising deeper explorations of belonging for underserved kids. Echo Films is set to release a limited series on investigative journalism, featuring an ensemble cast she handpicked to reflect global perspectives. Broadway rehearsals intensify daily, culminating in a world premiere opening that will test the mettle of a career built on resilience. Behind these visible projects lies her quiet ambition to write a memoir, an intimate account of survival within an industry that often discards women once they pass 30. That memoir, she hints, will reveal the unglamorous hours spent rewriting scripts after grueling days on set,